Let's start with Jennifer Vassell. Jennifer Vassell is the author and founder of I Am Unique, a children's book and self-love brand aimed to inspire kids and adults to rise above their insecurities and share their unique gifts with the world. Jennifer's interest in entrepreneurship peaked when she heard a life-changing sermon on New Year's Eve 2012. In 2014, she published her debut book entitled My Channeled Energy, a collection of poems and short stories written from age 6 through 26, becoming an Amazon #1 bestseller in 2 categories. Her main focus now is building the I Am Unique brand. Her work has been featured in national online publications such as Forbes, Black Enterprise, Thrive, Essence, and Good Day LA. I Am Unique has touched the lives of children across the US and internationally, reaching countries like France, the Philippines, England, Kenya, and Uganda. Jennifer is a Southern California native who holds a bachelor's degree from La Jolla Marymount University and a master's degree from APU. She is a board member for Stuck Designs, a 501c3 nonprofit organization that provides self-love and art programming for girls of color in underserved communities worldwide. What Jennifer is most proud of, though, is being able to inspire others to tap into their natural gifts and live life with purpose and intention. That's Jennifer Vassell. Anything you want to say before we move on to the next panelist?
Thank you for having me, everyone. So excited to be here. Feel free to ask any questions. Definitely want this to be a fun conversational moment. So thank you.
Awesome. And our next amazing panelist we have is Maisha Gamino. She is currently Vice President of Public Affairs, where she will direct the strategy for public clinics, public relations, communications, and marketing functions. With over 20 years of experience, Gamino has held roles in communications, government relations, and corporate social responsibility at Fortune 500 companies, including JP Morgan, Chase & Co., and Corbett & Co. She was also an adjunct professor at APU. Appointed by Burbank City Council, Gamino is vice chair of the Municipal Park Recreation and Community Service Board. She is active on boards of the Boys and Girls Club of Metro Los Angeles and the African American Board Leadership Institute. She received a bachelor's degree from Scripps College, a master's degree from APU, and is a graduate of University of the West post-MBA program in finance. So welcome, Maisha.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It's great to be here to represent our alma mater and hopefully support the rest of our either students or people who have graduated from APU. It's just an honor.
For sure. Thank you, ladies, again for that. And I just want to, let's just hop right into it. You know, I know you guys have started questions a little bit already, but both of you have very good bios and you guys have done a lot, which is amazing in that. So tell us about how you ended up at your current job and what were the considerations when looking for your job or career that you're in right now?
I guess I'll start. So by day, I'm a human resources professional. Outside of that, what you read in the bio, I'm a children's book author and creative entrepreneur. So I'll speak on the corporate side. How I found the job or what I was looking for in a role, I wanted to find a role that was in alignment with my values and my goals and my skills as well. And one thing that is very important to me is understanding a corporation's social responsibility. That's something that's very important to me. I want to make sure that I know how the company is giving back to the community that they occupy and also how they involve their employees. So as I mentioned, I'm a human resources professional by day. I work for a media company. And the reason why I chose that was because I love entertainment, the business of entertainment and media. I had a short stint in several years ago, I was a BET intern, and since then, I always wanted to get back into the media industry. And when this opportunity came up, I hopped on it. So that's what I'm looking for when I'm looking for roles and jobs. I'm also looking at competitive pay rate and benefits, of course.
Jennifer, that's a great answer. I think we share some similar values when it comes to looking for an organization that believes in corporate social responsibility. That was part of my story as well. I got into this field, or I got into my career through, I think, maybe perhaps a non-traditional channel. I worked in corporate social responsibility. So I actually had the opportunity. Not only was I looking for companies that were giving back, but I wanted to be part of helping those companies make those decisions to be able to give back. And so I worked in corporate social responsibility, public relations, and government relations. And all of those careers really came to intersect and help me to where I am now, which is overseeing public affairs and media relations. Most of my work, as you heard from the biography, was in corporate and working for large companies that shared the same values that I have. As it relates to giving back into the community. And then 4 years ago, I made a decision to go into nonprofit. I wanted to have a direct impact on the work, and I found an organization that was willing to that had a department, or wanted me to launch a department, I should say, to do that same type of work, do public relations and media relations for a large nonprofit. And I believed in the cause so much, it's mental health, that I thought it was just a great opportunity. Again, aligned with my values. And for those 20 years of my career, I found ways to prepare for where I am today.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. And I think that's really huge. And I know a lot of students that are probably tuning in general, really just are trying to find something that aligns with their beliefs and their things that their interests and their passions and, things like that. I know for me, my passions was all over the place. So I'm just curious, like, when you were in undergrad, like, what did you major in? And also, like, what did you think your career would look like? Did you think it would be where you are now, or was it somewhere completely different?
So I majored in business administration at Loyola Marymount University. I had a concentration in business law and a minor in English. My plan was to go to law school. That didn't pan out. I wanted to be an entertainment lawyer, all that. I'm still kind of adjacent to law in that HR is employment law and I'm in media. So, but that my plan completely changed, and I shifted gears and got my master's in business management instead at APU. So.
For undergraduate studies, I created my own major. So Claremont did not have I went to Scripps College, as you heard, and Claremont didn't have a business degree at the time I was there. They had an organizational management degree, and I too shared interest in media. So I worked with a professor and designed my own major. I can't remember what it was called. I think it was corporate organization and media marketing, but essentially it's media marketing and business in one. But for graduate school, I studied at the time it was called the HROD program, which I believe is the management program now, and at Azusa Pacific. And one thing, there's a lot that I appreciate about my experience, but I have to say that the real world experience that the professors gave me helped me in my career. So by the time that I was in the master's program, I was already in my career. And so to have professors that had a depth of real world experience along with the studies, that practical knowledge was really helpful. There was times where I was in business ethics class and just happened to be at work where I had an ethical dilemma, and I was able to resolve it because I had guidance from the professors who just went through that exercise. So I certainly appreciated that real world experience matched with the academic strength that our professors have.
Yeah, for sure. And thank you both for sharing on that. Just the pivots that you guys made in life, so just to get to where you are now. But yeah, for sure, like here at APU, just the benefit of having that real world experience, and just the all of that is just amazing. It's really beneficial to help you continue to move forward. Um, yeah. So with that, I'm curious, like, how would you how would you say that you ended up doing what you're doing in the sense that you knew this is what you wanted to do?
So I graduated from APU in 2012 with my master's in management, and I pursued a career or continued my career in HR. I was still fairly new. So after graduation, I found a job in HR. And then in 2013, I started my writing career, my writing and publishing career. And so I did my corporate and my entrepreneurial endeavors in tandem. So I still do both. So that was in 2013 when I worked on my first book, published it in 2014. And then in 2016, I returned back to APU to pursue my MBA. At that time, I had the start of the children's media brand. I had the book out, and I Am Unique, and I also had other things that I was building around the self-love brand. But I did return back for my MBA because I wanted that quantitative management type of style. When I got my MA, it was very qualitative knowledge and research-based knowledge, but I wanted that quantitative aspect where I got the econ, the finance. And so in 2016, that happened, and I still continue working, and I graduated from APU in 2020 with my MBA. And after that, I continued to pursue my entrepreneurial endeavors. And I forget the second part of your question. How did we get to where we are?
Like, how did you know that this is it? Like, I know this is what I'm doing.
I knew that I was on the right path New Year's Eve 2012, and we're coming up on the 10-year anniversary of that aha moment for me. And you read it in my bio. I was streaming a church service New Year's Eve 2012 where Bishop Dale Bronner from Word of Faith Family Church said, "Don't die with your gift still on the inside of you. Impart to others what was entrusted to you." And that completely changed the trajectory of my life and career, because I knew that I had a natural gift of writing. I just didn't know that it could be a viable career path, because I didn't see anyone who looked like me doing it. And when that happened, in 2012, 2013 was the start of me pursuing writing and creating professionally.
That's powerful.
It is powerful. So for me, when I left APU, as I shared, I was in my career, and so at a midpoint in my career, and I did receive a promotion afterwards. So I do believe that our degrees are certainly valuable, not only for our personal goals, but certainly for professional opportunities as well. So I do recall that there was a promotion shortly after I graduated. But I think what I gained from it is I certainly prepared, as I shared, that real world experience prepared me to make difficult decisions, to be comfortable with those decisions, to learn how to analyze them as well. I also think it strengthened my work ethic. I've always been a hard worker. I'm pretty sure that many of us are. It's certainly balancing out a career and going to graduate school at nighttime certainly helped to create a stronger work ethic. I had to learn how to get my work done during the daytime, go to school and do the homework at nighttime, and just balance out life a little bit more. So certainly helped me create a strong work ethic, but also learn how to create a little bit of balance for myself as I went to grad school. As far as understanding when I knew it was knowing that my career is right, for me, as I shared, giving back was something that was important to me, and having the opportunity to be able to help a company to give back was important. And now working a nonprofit that gives back it's been a career theme of mine for the entire time. When I have the opportunity to meet people that have been able to turn their lives around, or I have helped in a small way through the resources I've been afforded at these agencies to be able to make a difference. That's when I feel my greatest joy, is when I could see the difference that it helps with in people's lives.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Thank you, ladies. That's really great answers. And both of you kind of touched on something a little bit, but mainly balance. And I know a lot of we have male scholars that are listening right now, and I know they probably know where I'm going with this, but we've been talking about balance all year, and both of you have a lot on your plate. You're doing a lot, you know what I mean? And Maisha, you was talking about balancing and trying to figure that out. I would love to hear from both of you, like, how did you find balance in yourself? Or are you still trying to find that? And what does that look like?
I think that, or you want to go, Maisha?
No. Go ahead. I'll go after you.
I'm thinking about the word balance. Any given day, I don't think that there will be a such thing as balance. It really depends on the day. It depends on what the priorities are. I do make sure that I do work on better habits, a better morning routine, but sometimes you're juggling a bunch of different things and you have to prioritize what will happen today and what will be put aside for tomorrow. The balancing act is definitely something that can be a challenge. For me, I think about the things that I must do today and the things that can wait till later in the week. Or I try to order my day depending on the importance or the urgency of whatever task or whatever it might be.
That's a great. That was really great to hear, Jennifer. I also agree. For me, for balance, it really is outlining tasks for the day, for the week. I would say that years ago, I used to have a mini retreat for myself where I would just take a little time to write down my goals for the year, and that would keep me at least focused on what I wanted to accomplish. I have not done that this year. And but I do feel that when it comes to work-life balance, and maybe that's I don't know if that would be helpful to talk about. I still haven't found the answer yet. I have not found the answer to work-life balance, but I do know that I try hard at it. I know where my priorities lie. I have a family, I have children. I make sure I make time for them. I think that trying to make sure that I have time for my family while also doing what fulfills me in my work is really important. So as I said, I don't know if I don't have a perfect answer. I think everyone has their own solution and everyone has to find what's right for them. But for me, I'm at a comfortable place where I feel like I'm able to give my children what I need, and I'm able to get the fulfillment that I need as well, and work and my personal life.
Yeah, I would agree with both of you. I mean, it's definitely something that you got to navigate and find what makes most sense for you ultimately, especially when you got family involved and things like that, and also friends. So with that, I mean, with your professional decisions, like, how do you factor in your friends and your family?
I think my friends and family did make an impact on my professional decisions earlier on. I'm the firstborn of Jamaican immigrant parents. They came to the US in the 70s, and it was always instilled in my sister and I the importance of education, the importance of going to school, furthering your education, and having something that you can fall back on and be able to provide for yourself. So that it was like non-negotiable. It was the expectation to go off to school, to go to college. So I think that our upbringing definitely impacted my professional decision to pursue college and beyond. Now that I've ventured out into a more entrepreneurial path, and it deviates from a traditional framework and what my parents would know. I've leaned more on my community and people who are in alignment with where I'm headed. So my family, we have a lot of medical professionals. And so that was not my career trajectory. And while they can provide emotional support, I didn't necessarily look to them in my later years for that professional guidance or anything of that nature.
My family has had a huge influence on my career. My father was a social worker. My mother was a homemaker who volunteered a lot. And so every day they focused on hard work, giving back, like Jennifer, the importance of education, and also having faith and believing in God. And so every decision that I've made as it relates to my career has always, or my family has influenced every decision, I should say. Whether it's working hard to get where I am, finding that faith, praying on decisions, all of that upbringing that they gave me were the tools that I still use today. So they've been a huge influence on who I am and the direction I've taken.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's the same for me. Like my family, I always say family comes first for me. So like a lot of times it was an expectation for me as well. Like I had to go to school. There was no question if I was going to college, if I was going to graduate, things like that. Otherwise I'd probably be, getting a whooping at 30 years old, you know what I mean? But no, that's really deep and that's real. Because they are the ones that, that they are your first ministry at the end of the day. Jennifer, you did mention something that I thought was really interesting though. You said that that originally when you started, a lot of the people that you factored in was your family, but because of your entrepreneurial trajectory and your path that you took, you had to kind of shift a little bit and lean more towards your friends. So how was that? Like, what did that look like for you? Like to, kind of go against what your family's expectation was to ultimately get to what you knew that you had to go towards?
Yeah, I leaned on more on community and people who were entrepreneurial, who had like minds, and those who had who I aspired to be, or they've been where I'm trying to go. And it wasn't that I went against my parents' wishes by any means, because I did complete school, and I think from the start, I was different. I didn't go into the medical field. Majority of my family, that's what they went to nursing school, or that trajectory. And I've always wanted to do something different. So I think for me, leaning on folks who were going where I was trying to go was my best avenue. And not that I was turning my back to my family. It was more, I was yearning for more opportunities and more space to learn and grow in a way that they wouldn't be able to provide, for example. So in children, I'm the first in my family to pursue children's media. Like there's some people on my dad's side and mom's side who are entrepreneurial, but as far as the path that I'm going on, I'm the first in my family to start out and do something that is against the status quo. So I do lean on professional networks and people who have been where I'm trying to go to get to build that network of folks who know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, for sure. And thank you for the clarity on that. But that in itself is really cool. But it can also be challenging. So that's why I wanted to hear a little bit more on that. But it also goes into our next question. So like, you talked about professional community, and I know both of you have your own. So what does it look like? What has it looked like to find your professional community in your organization, things like that?
I use LinkedIn a lot. I'm a huge proponent of LinkedIn as a professional network. I also leverage social media. Some people use social media for to laugh at memes or to share the latest gossip or whatever the case might be, but I use it to network and make sure that I'm up on the trends and what's going on. I also use, as far as professional networks, I'm a part of different associations that, like, for example, Children's Media Association, Women in Animation, because I want to be surrounded by folks who are, as I mentioned before, like, on the path that I'm going, and we have like minds and we're in pursuit of similar goals. Another thing that for the viewers or anybody who's looking for a community or how they can get involved in certain networks, I would also recommend going to Facebook groups, finding your community there, you can, 9 times out of 10, if you type in a keyword in Facebook groups, you'll find a group for sewing, a group for learning Spanish, whatever it might be. But I'm really big on communities and taking those online relationships offline.
Yeah.
LinkedIn is super important. Building that LinkedIn network is only going to help your career. In addition, I also am part of association. So, or actually an association, Public Relations Society of America aligns with my career. So I'm a member of that association, and there's different chapters around the nation. As far as, and I'll address volunteerism as well. That's another way to build your network. So both Jennifer and I are involved in boards, as you heard. I am one of the board members on the African American Board Leadership Institute that helps Black leaders go onto boards. You go through a training program, and I went through this mid-career, and it had made such a huge difference in my life. I immediately looked at the boards I was on and looked at how they aligned with how I want to spend my time, my values, and became a stronger contributor. So I learned so much from that organization. It's something that I highly recommend. Not only is it a network, but then it helps you to learn how to become a better board member. After I completed that process, I became a city commissioner. So I really do believe in getting involved. And that's another way to build your network, is to volunteer and get on boards. And then another way in your workplace, if your workplace has it, is affinity groups. We've had a lot of affinity groups at the different places I've worked, and depending on what your interests are, I've typically been a part of the Black employee affinity group. I think it was called Ujima at one time. I was part of the Latino one as well, which I believe was Adelante at JP Morgan, and the women's group. So I think, but there's always, depending on where you work, there's different affinity groups, some for parents, some for people with maybe they have special needs, or they have family members with special needs, people who are veterans. So there's all kinds of affinity groups that align with who you are. And I think that's a great way to build not only a professional network, but also find a group of people that you can possibly relate to in many different ways, and who can help you personally and professionally.
Yes, love it. LinkedIn is very, very important. Social media is the different developmental groups within in your organization, but more importantly, the affinity groups. Shout out to the affinity groups that helped put this event on, the Black Student Association here at APU, but also the Black Faculty Staff Association here at APU. So shout out to that. But with that, I have another question with that to kind of follow up. So, because you kind of touched on it with the affinity groups. So, like, do you actively make effort to find community with those that have similar identities to you? So is it like affinity groups, also like race, gender, religion, things like that?
Yeah, I actively look for affinity groups, look for spaces where I can be surrounded by like-minded individuals. I also like to be surrounded by folks who are a few steps ahead of me, so that I can learn and grow from them. An example of some things that I do, I go to conferences, I invest in my personal development by going to those conferences, and also retreats. A couple of years ago, I went to a retreat with women who were in all different walks of life, all different industries, but the commonality was that we were all killing it in our respective industries. And it was great to learn and grow from them and also build those relationships. So I'm actively doing that, be it online through LinkedIn or the Facebook groups or the associations I'm a part of, but I actively look for those spaces where we can share, grow, and swap knowledge.
I agree. I certainly get involved in groups as well, where I feel like there's a connection, and that I can learn and also support others as well. COVID has certainly changed how that works. I mean, a couple years ago, it was perhaps having dinner with a group of people, and so Zoom dinners are a little odd. but I do think that there has been a way to keep those networks. I think we've become a little bit more nimble on how to have these type of conversations, even today on Zoom. I mean, a couple of years ago, this was unheard of. So I think we've learned how to maximize and utilize technology to build those relationships. It just may look different now.
For sure. COVID has shifted everything for us. But yes, thank you, ladies, for that. Love to hear how your racial identity has affected or impacted your career trajectory.
I think being a Black woman, I definitely felt the microaggressions that often happen in corporate. I didn't get the angry Black woman trope or the aggressive Black woman trope. It was more on the opposite end, where it's, why is she so quiet? Why is she dressed up? Why is she, there's always something about my demeanor or something about my hair. And when you're the only or one of a few, it's easy to be, for the lack of a better term, a target. And I have experienced that in corporate. And one thing that has helped my career trajectory is focusing on the work that I do, because no one can say that I did not do my work well and I didn't show up and I didn't stand up for myself. One thing that I had to learn to do and grow to do is learn how to be assertive and speak up for yourself and not to be afraid to take up space. I've had to have conversations with senior level staff about, privately though, but I had to talk to them and let them know that, hey, I don't think that this was okay to say in public. Here's an alternative. This is what I would have preferred happen, like letting people know that if they are inappropriate or they wronged you, let them know right when it happens, but also do it privately. So I think being able to learn how to take up space, how to assert yourself respectfully, that has helped me in my career.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, just the idea of being quiet and still feeling like a threat is just crazy. So thank you for sharing that, for sure.
I think we're in a time, Jennifer, where, and I absolutely respect what you have to say, because I think we're in a time where you can share that type of feedback, like what you just shared. I believe, at least for me, I believe I sit or stand on the shoulders of the people who came before me, who had a different time and a different struggle. And so I think that we're at a time where we actually can, and hopefully in these different workplaces, are empowered to be able to have those conversations, because I'm not sure if those before us would have had that opportunity. So I definitely appreciate and respect that, that we're at a different place where we can, and we should when we can. For me, in addition to that, it's certainly made me cognizant of, because I work with imagery, like with film and communications, I think about the images that we use. And so when I've seen maybe a picture of hands and none of them are different shades of brown, it raised a red flag for me. Let's change that. Let's make sure people feel included. Because I'm part of a team that's helping to promote the importance of mental health, I want to make sure that those images look like the various communities that need to know about mental health. So for me, I'm cognizant of, we need to make sure that we have some different images that we push out, because people need to know it's okay to find the mental health support that they need, or make sure that the hands that we're showing represent the various communities that we're trying to represent, and that we're not being exclusive, but we're rather being inclusive. So that's really important for me, and making those decisions about who we put on film to represent us, or the imagery that we choose.
Yeah, representation matters, and
Yes, it does.
It plays a big part in everything. Yeah, so with that, we'll keep it going, because I'm seeing time here. I want to make sure that we make time for the attendees. I see some questions coming in the chat already. So going to the next part of this. So looking back for you both, when you were in undergrad, like, what is something you wish you would have taken more advantage of?
When I was in undergrad, I was very focused on my studies and on graduating on time. I did not give enough attention and energy to building relationships. And if I were able to do it over, that's what I would. We talked about the word balance before, but I would try to figure out, how can I balance my academic life with social life, because building relationships is absolutely important. My recommendation or my advice would be to, while you're still in school, build those relationships with your peers, build relationships with your faculty, with the instructors. You never know where people will end up. And you want to have that Rolodex, that active Rolodex of people that you can lean on or call on one day if you have an opportunity, or vice versa. School studying is fine, studying is great, but do not do that only do that at the expense of those relationships, because relationships are currency, especially in this climate.
That's Major Keeler.
That's great advice. So during undergraduate, I had at least 3 jobs at one time and was going to school. And that was just what I needed to do to get through school. I wish, while I have no regrets, I do wish I would have taken the time to pause just a little bit and just enjoy life a little bit more. I think I had a perception that it would be a little bit easier when I got out of school, and that surely wasn't the case. It just kept on getting faster and faster. So going back to balance, just finding a little bit of time to balance and enjoy life would have been a little bit nicer.
I love
and getting involved in campus too, like the BSA, that's another way. When you're integrating yourself on campus and in these associations, you're also building your reputation, so that when you leave campus, people will remember your name and remember how you impacted the community that you occupied. So I would definitely recommend spend time building and nurturing those relationships, and don't wait till you graduate to try to call up somebody and say, hey, remember 10 years ago we went to such and such college? Like, try to do it now. Do it so that you can foster that relationship.
Yeah, I love it. Ladies, you guys are giving gems right now. So relationships, build those relationships, but also take time to just be present and just be there, and just, oh man, again, being a part of those affinity groups. So love it. Gonna keep it going. I like the flow that we're going here. So how has your faith or belief system intersected with your sense of calling or purpose?
I've had to lean on my faith heavily, especially on my entrepreneurial journey. And it's not for the faint of heart. It's very difficult. And there are times where I question my path, or am I doing this? Am I doing the right thing? Am I making an impact? Are people listening to me? Am I where I need to be? And so I do lean on my faith, and I have to remember that these visions, and this calling wouldn't have been given to me if it wasn't meant for me to make it come to pass.
Faith has definitely, as I shared, giving back has been a huge part of my life and my life's work. And so that comes from faith. It comes from the upbringing that I've had, the belief that my parents have instilled with me, to believe in God, and to find ways to be able to share what we have.
Yeah, I love that. And kind of following that question with that, like what advice would you give to someone struggling to find their calling or sense of purpose?
There are a few things that I would recommend. The first thing would be to make a list of the things that you love to do. Like, what are your hobbies? And also writing down your interests. That could jumpstart your sense of purpose and your calling, because when you're listing your interests, think about the things that you wouldn't mind doing even if you didn't get paid for it. So start there. The second thing that I would say is make note of what people frequently come to you for. So say, for example, you are a really good baker and someone really comes to you all the time to make your famous pound cake, or they're always reaching out to you to help them plan an event. Make note of those things, because even though you might think that it comes easy or it comes naturally to you, that might be your purpose or your calling. If you are getting the same type of requests, the same questions, really be cognizant of what is coming your way. These exercises are definitely a testament to self-discovery. You have to sit with yourself. If you don't know what you're good at or what your calling is or what your purpose is, it does take an element of soul searching and asking those tough questions. The third thing that I would recommend is taking a spiritual gifts assessment. If you're interested in learning about what your spiritual gifts are, to see what kind of path you want to take on, you can do that. There's a really affordable assessment on Amazon. It's under $10. It's called Spiritual Gifts Inventory, and you can answer a series of questions, and it, depending on how you answer it, it will align with a particular spiritual gift. And the last thing that could help you on your path to discovering what your calling is and your purpose is to read Rick Warren's Purpose Driven Life. And that book was game changer for me. My mom gifted it to me when my senior year of high school leading up to college. She gifted that to me as my graduation present. And this book is really good if you're questioning why were you placed on this earth.
Love it.
Yeah.
That is a really good book, Jennifer. I completely agree. I would say, in addition to what Jennifer shared, find a mentor. Mentors are wonderful. And I know Jennifer and I have both talked about leaning in and identifying people who are a few steps ahead of us that can help to help guide us. And so I think finding a mentor is really important. In addition to that, say yes. I have said yes so many times, and I never knew where that path would lead. And by saying yes, it opened up my eyes and opened up doors for me in many ways that probably would have happened had I been afraid to do so. So just trying new things, stepping out of my comfort zone, saying, yes, I'll take that on. I'll take on that project. I'll try this. I'll take that job. I'll switch industries. All of those opportunities to say yes have only led to more opportunities for me to find what I enjoy most and to be able to give my gifts and talents to help others.
I second the mentorship. Absolutely.
Mentorship is very important, and also saying yes. I love it. I love everything that you ladies have been saying with this. So we're coming up towards the end of this, and I want to make sure that we leave room for our attendees to ask questions to our panelists. I see some of you have already started putting questions within the chat, but you can also, if you have not yet, you can put it within the chat or you can put it within the Q&A. but I'll just jump into some of these that's already here. So one question we have is, how did you embrace and navigate your identity as an ambitious undergrad student?
How did I embrace it? I feel like I was always naturally driven. Like, I think I leaned into it. I went into college knowing that I had a certain goal. I wanted to go to law school, but I think while I was driven, I also had blinders. I was very like this, very tunnel vision. That's all I did. And so when I answered the other question about what I wish I would have done, is to like peel back those blinders and look around and get more involved. Back then, I would say I somewhat embraced myself. I just really had just a narrow vision of what I wanted to do. But as I've grown into myself, my womanhood, my career, I've seen that how important it is to have an open mind and to be a lifelong student, even after you get that degree, continuously seek knowledge, seek information, seek opportunities in ways that you can grow. Hope that answers the question.
That's a good answer. I think we already talked about affinity groups and the importance of them. And for me, being a part of the Black Student Union, or it was called the Office of Black Student Affairs, OBSA at the time, and Chicano Latino Student Affairs Center, those had helped me to build community and to be comfortable with who I am and find different ways to be able to participate on campus.
I love it, ladies. We have another one. So in 2 sentences, it's very specific. What is your life mission?
To live life with purpose and intention, and to inspire kids and adults to overcome their own insecurities and share their gifts with the world.
Look at you, Jennifer. That's good. 2 sentences. That was great. I would say to use my gifts and talents to help others. That's 1 sentence, but hopefully that answers the question.
Hey, it was to the point. That's all that matters. I love it. Okay, let's see. I'm going through them right now. Let's see. So, okay, so one is, have you ever had difficulty where you wanted to speak your mind and stand up for what you believed in, but you didn't want to come off as the angry Black woman?
I think it boils down to your approach. How are you delivering the information? How are you presenting it to that person? When I gave the example of how I had to assert myself in a difficult conversation with a senior leader, I did it in private and I was very calm about it. I think it's how sometimes it's not so much what you say, it's how you're saying and how you're delivering it. My path hasn't, or my experience has not been the angry Black woman. It's always been the quiet girl who doesn't speak. So my experience has been a little bit different, but I think to answer that question, you really think about how you're presenting the information, how you're expressing yourself. Keep a neutral tone, even if you're triggered, or don't reach out when you're triggered. Wait a day or so, but I definitely encourage to have the difficult conversation in private so that you're not fighting your battles publicly for viewership, for lack of a better word. So yeah, I think it really comes down to how you're presenting or communicating your concerns.
Yeah.
I can't recall a time where someone has told me to my face that I'm being an angry Black woman. And I too also, like Jennifer, temper, and think carefully about how I present information. I have seen colleagues who have had that type of label. And I think it's disappointing that anyone would weaponize anger to discredit any woman and discredit any Black woman. I think that I think that we do have to sometimes think about that in the back of our minds. How will this be received? But I also think that no one should ever weaponize that against us for speaking our minds. And I think that's something that's important as well.
For sure. I love it. Thank you for those answers, because I know that can be challenging. So we have a lot of questions. I see them all coming in, but I also want to respect the panelists' times. So let's, I'll do one more. Let me go through these. So how did you approach conversations with higher ups where you felt what you said was not okay? Well, you felt I'm sorry, where you felt what was said was not okay.
Well, can you repeat that? How did you approach?
How do you approach conversations with higher ups where you felt what was said was not okay?
A similar response to what I shared before. Like, first, take a step back. I mean, if you're triggered, then don't respond in the heat of the moment. Take a step back, think about it. If you need to address it the next day or an hour later, take that time so that you're not going into the situation triggered. And then have that conversation privately. So what I did with a vice president was reach out to her executive assistant and ask for 15 minutes on her calendar. That's how I did it. So I just went to the EA, had her put time on the calendar, and then we booked a conference room and we talked about it. The way I presented it, I said, I don't know if you remember this, but you say the date, you give the time, whatever the date, and then what that person did, and then how it made you feel and how it didn't, and how it was an uncomfortable moment for you. So that's exactly what I did. I shared, hey, I don't know if you remember this, but on Monday, for example, let's just say Monday, on Monday, we were in a group meeting and you shared something out loud, everybody laughed, and that didn't sit right with me. And I just wanted to bring that to your attention that was something that was, I don't think that it was the most appropriate thing to do in that time. And then she said, oh, I didn't even, her response was like, well, thank you for bringing that to my attention. I didn't realize, she wasn't aware of how it affected me. And most of the times they don't. But I think respectfully putting a mirror up in essence and showing them that this is not okay. And this is, not an appropriate way to conduct yourself. I think that it lends itself to more respect in the work environment and more of a safer place to have those difficult conversations.
I've been really fortunate. I have worked for some amazing leaders, and I know that this is not everyone's experience, and people don't always have the experience to have that, or don't always have the opportunity to work with amazing leaders. I have historically worked with several women, several people of color, several Black and Latino executives. I have been very blessed to have had such great leadership during my career. That being said, if I've ever needed to have a conversation, a difficult conversation, I think Jennifer's right to take a pause. I always say to my team, think about your first reaction, think about your second reaction. Your second reaction may be the right one. So take a pause, think about it if it's a difficult conversation. And I think about the tactical approach. A lot of times if it is sensitive, those sensitive conversations can be respectfully held behind closed doors. Now, I do understand that this is coming from a place where you have to feel empowered to be able to have that conversation, and that's difficult, especially when you're starting your career or you are the only one in the room. It's difficult to feel empowered to have those conversations. I think that this is where your mentors help. They help guide you. They help you navigate those situations and those rooms. They help you think about that second reaction that you're looking for so that you can have the outcome that you ultimately desire. So, and all in all, those mentors are very helpful. If you don't have one, get one and lean in on them and their expertise.
Awesome. Thank you, ladies, so much. So again, thank you everyone for tuning in with us this evening. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Maisha, for your time, your knowledge, your expertise, your gems, everything. We just really appreciate you for being a part of this tonight. And yeah, everyone, you have a good night and thank you for joining.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks for the opportunity. If you didn't get a chance and you want me to answer your question, my contact information is on LinkedIn. I'm happy to answer those questions individually. And thanks for the opportunity. It's a great thrill to be able to share with APU. Have a great night, everyone.
For sure. Why don't you go ahead and drop your contact info if you want to.
Oh, yeah.
While they're sitting there. All right.
Let me get mine over here. So I am Jennifer Vassell on LinkedIn, so you can search my name. Let me give my email. And
Awesome. All right.
and then let me get the LinkedIn.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you. Y'all have a great night.
Thanks. Good night. Thanks for having us.